1045 The Team, 1045theteam.com. On the phone right now, Patrick Keenis, the broadcaster for the Durham Bulls, the AAA affiliate of the Tampa Bay Rays, where we have one of our own Capital Region native Maple Hill graduate, Jaime Schultz. Patrick, Jaime Schultz takes the loss yesterday. Hit around a little bit, huh?
Well, the line certainly was a little bit worse than actually the pitching was. He gave up 7 runs, 5 straight hits in the bottom of the third inning, all hard-hit balls. But in speaking to Jaime after the game and pitching coach Kyle Snyder, who won a World Series with the Red Sox, they know it's a process of what he's trying to accomplish. And really making the jump from Double-A Montgomery last year, he's working with one of the best pitching coaches in the minor league game in Snyder. And there's a method to what Schultz is learning. He's going to encounter a couple of bumps here or there, but his velocity was very good. He was 94, touched 96 a couple of times, and it's just really learning now kind of the method behind what he's been able to pick up the last couple of years, meaning changing eye level on batters, sequencing pitches better or really for the first time in his career, kind of just getting a deeper, more comprehensive understanding of beating batters every time they step into the batter's box. But a young kid with a very bright future, and the Rays are going to have a decision to make on exactly how they want to use him, in the next couple of years, whether it's a starting pitcher or whether it's a back end of the bullpen right-hander.
Yeah, that was one. I was going to go there in a minute, but you bring me to it now. What do you think his future really projects him as? He is a guy who can come in and throw very, very hard, and he has had some of the control issues that you see that force guys to the bullpen, but they've been committed to him as a starter. And so it looks as if starting is the way they see it. But what do you think he projects best as?
Well, I've asked that question to a lot of guys in the Rays organization, and being at the AAA level, I've never seen Jaime pitch until a couple of weeks ago. So that was a question that really piqued my interest. First and foremost, the Tampa Bay Rays organization, even if they see a guy as a seventh inning, eighth inning, a high leverage late game guy, like the guys they have in their bullpen now, like a Brad Boxberger when he's healthy, like an Enny Romero and Alex Colomé. These are guys they give innings to as they develop. So even if a couple of years from now they think that Schultz is going to be, a late inning guy, they still want him right now to, experience mistakes and problems like he had last night, to get 5-6 innings every fifth day under his belt instead of just making that early career transition to the bullpen. What it will probably come down to is two things. Number one will be command. That is really the wild card right now for Schultz. And you brought up, his high walk rate, tends to throw a lot of pitches in at bats. Now, last night was a little bit of an exception. He's attacking hitters and getting more results in the first 3 or 4 pitches of an AB, which conserves pitch count. But his history is what it is. I mean, he led the Southern League in walks last year. The fastball command has not been impeccable, but they do hope that cleans up a little bit as he continues to advance to the higher levels of the minors. So that's going to be number one. Number two is just going to be, if he can command all 3 pitches, and he right now the fastball command is a little below average. The curveball is still kind of coming around, and the changeup. But at times he is a plus command guy with 3+ pitches. If that's the case, Brady, then he really is in line to be a starting pitcher. Generally guys who get moved to the bullpen have 2 pitches that they can command. And if it turns out, and again, this is another 18 to 24 months down the road, if it winds up that the 3 pitches that he has, or if he develops another pitch, a cutter or something else to go with the other pitches, if he can handle 3, then he's probably a number 2, number 3 starter with his stuff. So it's really too early for the Rays to tell at this stage, nor do they want to make that decision. They just want him to take the ball every five days, go out there, experience some success, continue to develop his craft, learn hitters, set them up better, and really just let things evolve over the next year or two.
Capital Region fans are extremely excited about minor league baseball this year because not only do we have Jaime Schultz in the Rays system, we've got Garrett Whitley, the first-round draft pick from the Rays, in the Rays system. Jeff Hoffman, who was the key piece of the Rockies-Blue Jays midsummer trade last year, is in AAA knocking on the door in Colorado. The fans want to see these guys get to the pros as quick as possible. How do the Rays develop their pitchers? What is their timing? Is there any chance Schultz, with a good season, ends up in Tampa at all this year, or is it pretty much a foregone conclusion he's in AAA for the duration of the season?
Well, I think a lot of things would have to break right for Schultz to be brought up this year. Number one, he's not on the 40-man roster. That is a premium spot for the Tampa Bay Rays, much more so than it is for a team like the Yankees or the Red Sox. So what that means is, right now Schultz is kind of stacked up in line behind other guys. If the Rays need a starting pitcher right now, the first guy they're going to lean on is Matt Andriese. So the Rays are going to go back to a 5-man rotation beginning this week. They had a bulk of off days in the first couple of weeks of the season and went to a 4-man starting rotation. Andriese is first in line. He was up last year, pitched very well with Tampa Bay, and a little bit more of a seasoned pitcher. Next in line is Blake Snell. Blake Snell was last year's minor league player of the year at any level, and he rapidly rose through the Rays organization from high A to AAA, and there was a lot of clamoring on calling Blake Snell to the big leagues last year. He had a 1.4 ERA, won 15 games, and he's a lefty with power and a power curveball and an excellent changeup, and he throws 95 to 96 miles an hour. So he's next. So there are several guys in line ahead of Jaime Schultz to get a crack at the big leagues. The other part about not being on the 40-man roster, and he has not needed to be protected on that roster yet, is once you get on that 40-man roster, and if they call you up to the big leagues, suddenly your clock toward free agency begins. Your clock toward arbitration eligibility begins. And the Rays, being a small market, low payroll team, lowest in the major leagues, that is something that really precluded Blake Snell from being called up last year. They wanted to guard his innings. They kept his innings around 120. The Rays were not in the playoff contention for a wild card, so they didn't necessarily need him up there. And the other reason was they just didn't want to start that clock. An extra month of big league service time means a lot a couple of years down the road in terms of future salaries. So with a guy like Schultz, several things would have to break his way. I can't imagine right now a circumstance, unless the Rays just get riddled with injuries over the next few months. It would be hard to fathom that he would be a guy that they would lean on this year.
Patrick, I'm going to ask you about Garrett Whitley, a guy you probably haven't seen or even heard that much talk about, but another guy in the Capital Region we're excited about. What's the depth in the Rays organization like in the outfield? I mean, how quick could we see a guy like a Garrett Whitley move through the system?
Well, two-part answer to that. Number one is that the Rays actually do have quite a bit of outfield depth, but I'm speaking about the outfield depth here at AAA.
Right.
So they have, they have Geyer and Kiermaier and Jennings and Souza and the group up there all set in the big leagues. That's the reason why a guy like Mikey Matsuk is on the Durham Bulls. Mikey Matsuk with 20 to probably 22 other big league organizations would be in a big league outfield right now, but he's not. The Rays haven't always had this kind of outfield depth, and they've had some injury issues impacting that depth the last few years. So that's number one. The Rays did pick up a guy named Jake Gilbert, who played college ball at Northwestern. He was a waiver claim a couple of weeks ago. He adds a little bit more corner outfield depth. So they've built that here just in case they need it if guys go down. To Whitley, how quickly will he advance? The Rays are generally pretty aggressive, not hyper aggressive, but they generally like to move guys a level a year. So with Whitley, after he was drafted last year, the answer is generally going to be he'll be promoted as quickly as he masters levels. So how he conducts himself in at-bats, how he plays the outfield, how his arm looks, more how his bat looks. And the bat for Whitley is going to be what carries him quickly through the organization. So I can imagine they may like to get him, probably to Double-A Montgomery by, if all things fall right, maybe midway next year or early in 2018. But, when you're a high school drafted kid, no matter how good you are, it still takes a good, 3 to 4.5 years before they are knocking at the door, unless you're just an extraordinary talent.
Patrick Keenis, Durham Bulls broadcaster, breaking down Jaime Schultz, Garrett Whitley, and everything Capital Region Tampa Bay Rays related. Patrick, thanks a lot for the time. I know we'll talk to you again multiple times throughout the year, if you don't mind.
I will be here. Just don't call me in August. I'll be down in Rio with the Olympics, broadcasting for Westwood One, so I'm excited about that. But anytime up until then, we'll be fine, and I'll brush up a little bit more on Huffman. I don't know the other organizations all that well, but I'll do my best.
All right, sounds good. Patrick, enjoy the Olympics. Enjoy the nice weather in Rio.
Yeah, I will do my best. I'll send you some pictures, Brady. Thanks.